Welcome back to Hannity. Now, things have gotten pretty contentious on the campaign trail in recent days. Here with reaction, author of the New York Times bestseller, Duplicity, former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor, Newt Gingrich. I'm watching this circular firing squad emerge in this campaign on the Republican side, and it concerns me because I think at the end of the day, people's tensions are way too high. We're not focused on issues, and the Democrats are loving the intramural squabble. And it's distracting from the fact that Hillary Clinton is about to be interviewed by the FBI. Thoughts?
Well, first of all, to go back to the Democrats for 1 second, you know, she didn't just lose. Sanders got 82% in Alaska, 73% in Washington State, and 71% in Hawaii. I mean, these are catastrophic results coming on top of some earlier victories a week before. I think that Hillary's organization has to be pretty shaken by how badly she's currently doing. And I saw a report a little while ago that Sanders has raised $4 million online since Saturday. So he's going to keep rolling. And that highlights your point. Here you have a real race in the Democratic Party, and you have one of the dumbest weeks in presidential politics that I can remember. For Trump to get sucked into this at a personal level, tweeting about repeating a tweet, technically,
retweet
about Mrs. Cruz is just utterly stupid, and it is frankly weakened everything that Trump ought to be strengthening. It sent a signal to women that is negative at a time when his numbers of the women are already bad. It sent a signal of instability to people who are beginning to say, okay, maybe I've got to get used to it, maybe I've got to rely on him, maybe he could be presidential. And frankly, it energized Cruz. The interview you just did is as good as I have ever seen Ted Cruz. He was clear, he was vigorous, he was prepared to be combative, but at the same time, he was getting into big issues and big ideas. My guess is he's going to do well in Wisconsin. And this ought to be a wake-up call to Trump that he had better rethink some of the underlying patterns of his campaign.
Look, I just, you know, for the life of me, I don't understand when families and wives are brought into it. And I'm just trying to look at it fairly from both sides. I'm sure he's mad about the ad about Melania. I'm sure he assumed it was the Cruz campaign. Cruz says no. Then he does a retweet. That then is on him. And then you have this whole thing that breaks in the National Enquirer, which I think is total BS also. But I know that was, you know, that was pitched a long time ago by another campaign. So it all gets, it all begins to, you know, coalesce around the wrong things we ought to be talking about.
Yeah, look, Donald Trump had a very easy answer to that truly stupid
super PAC
I think it was actually a Facebook ad that was sent out. The answer was simple. Melania was a supermodel on a professional shoot for a very famous magazine. He's very proud of her, and she'll be a very beautiful first lady. Now, if you just said that and moved on, then the Cruz campaign would have looked stupid. The issue would have been over. He would have seemed disciplined and pleasant and a gentleman. And instead, he gets down into this mud that I think really has hurt him. I'm not sure anybody in the Trump campaign understands yet what a big mistake this is. And they can't keep doing this stuff and think that they're going to get the nomination. They're still in a dogfight. Cruz does have a road to get to a majority, or certainly a road to block Trump from a majority. And I don't know that on a second ballot that Trump would be able to survive, because Cruz is doing a better job than Trump of organizing delegates, as we learned, for example, in Louisiana. This is a tough business running for president, and you can talk about lawsuits all you want to, as Trump did today. That ain't going to cut it. He has to get in there, be well organized, and actually get the delegates. And I think he's got to reassess some of what he's doing.
Okay, so at this point, Trump would need 53% of remaining delegates to get the nomination. Wisconsin's winner take all. I guess he has a firewall because then he goes to New York, and then you've got, you know, states that mostly have kind of winner take all feel to it. There's so many screwed up and discombobulated rules, but then you're in Connecticut, Delaware, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island. Who does well in those states, or do we even know, or can we tell at this point?
No, I think actually Kasich does a little better than people expected. He's doing better in Wisconsin than people thought he would. He may well carry Pennsylvania. I think he's almost tied with Trump in Pennsylvania. He has a chance to do well in places like Connecticut. So Kasich becomes another part of this game. But remember, the game is, can Trump get to the delegates he needs or not? If he doesn't, then you got a lot of different possibilities. You have the a Cruz Kasich ticket, for example. You have a lot of things that could be happening, and you can't assume you've got Rubio's delegates sitting out there. Pennsylvania, for example, is uncommitted, even though they have a primary. The primary is really just a beauty contest. It doesn't bind the delegates. But the other thing is, things like this latest tweet and getting down in the mud about Mrs. Cruz, in a state like California, this really hurts. And California has a huge delegation. And so Trump cannot relax and assume, the very techniques that got him this far may stop him from closing the deal. And that's why I think he's got to really reflect on what he's doing.
Yeah. Well, look, he needs 53%. Cruz needs 83%. But you're right. This can take on a whole different feel. What does it take, though? I mean, let's say nobody gets to 1237, but Trump's at 1150 and Cruz is at 950. What does it take? Why are you laughing? You always laugh at my questions. I ask good questions and you laugh. What?
It's a great. You're setting up. Look, as a historian, and frankly, from the standpoint of Fox News, what a convention that would be. I mean, that whole period from June the 7th on to the convention in Cleveland would be 6 or 7 weeks of maneuvering, negotiating, visiting. I mean, it would be as wild as anything you and I have ever seen in our lifetime in terms of American domestic politics.
Okay, but I love that part of it, but I also suspect that if somebody either has a majority or plurality of delegates and they don't get the nomination, that their supporters are going to feel disenfranchised and they're going to be pissed.
Yeah, look, here's the great challenge we're faced with right now. And I don't think people have thought about the two sides of this. On the one hand, you can't steal the nomination from Trump without him potentially walking and taking almost half the party with him. On the other hand, if Trump continues to alienate people, he could have 600 or 800 delegates get up and walk out during his acceptance speech. So this is a two-way game here, and a lot more effort has to be put into being presidential, bringing us back together, doing things so people feel comfortable. And I think that people need to recognize this is a free country. Both sides can play this game.